Good morning, everybody. Bart Winkler show. We continue to not just talk about where the Packers are at, but this game coming up against the Cowboys, which I kind of think is like it should be getting a bigger amount of. It's McCarthy's coming back, yet the Packers are so miserable that's kind of been the focus. Joining me on today's episode from CheeseheadTV, #old friend. They've got the Carry the G beer, which I wouldn't tell you I liked it if I didn't like it. It is good. Aaron Nagler.
Well, I'm glad you like it. That's great. It was so good to see you. What was it, a couple months ago when we launched it? You were down there in Milwaukee. I got to see you. That was really nice. And thanks for having me, man. Yeah, this Cowboys game is weird, right? In the sense that when the schedule came out, there was a kind of an expectation for what this game would be, and it most certainly doesn't feel like that now that the Packers basically suck. So yeah, it'll be nice to see Mike and Lambeau again, though.
So I'm just going to play this for you right away. This is something that I said yesterday on the show, and I didn't think I'd ever be at this point, but I'm at this point. I'll just play it. It's 60 seconds. Right. This is me on yesterday's show. I need to preface this. I've loved the Packers as long as I knew what the Packers were. They are more than a football team to me. They are a way to connect with others. I want the Packers to lose on Sunday badly. I want Mike McCarthy to come in here and just shove it. I want to see a big grin at the end of the third quarter, knowing that he's going to beat Aaron Rodgers. And that makes me more of a Packer fan. Rodgers is bigger than the Packers. Favre got bigger than the Packers. We moved on. Guess what? It worked. He saw what Favre did. He saw all the mistakes that Favre made as a player. Won't make those mistakes on the field. He saw the mistakes Favre made trying to stay here. Won't make those mistakes on the off the field. Everyone knows it's time to bench him, and they won't do it because he's too big to be benched. I need Mike McCarthy to come in here, get his victory, get Rodgers benched, and end this era once and for all. So there's a lot to dissect there.
There's a lot going on there. There's a lot.
Saying that makes me a better Packer fan. Look, and one of the reasons that I did want to talk to you is because, we've been through this before with McCarthy, right. And we've been through this before with Favre and Rodgers. And then you're getting a lot of comparisons of the 70s and 80s. And, you saw the tail end of that. So I'll first ask you your reaction to what I just said.
Well, like I said, there's a lot going on there. The only thing I would push back on is anything that anyone says makes them more of a fan. Fans are just different, man. Like, I get it. I get what you're saying. People fan different ways. And my co-founder, Corey Banke, took some heat earlier this week because he literally put up a tweet that said Mike McCarthy. He's the enemy this week, blah, blah, blah. But it's just this week. He still appreciates what Mike did as the coach of the Packers. Everybody fans differently. And I understand that sentiment, especially, and I think the key there, for me anyway, is something that I've been talking to a few people kind of throughout the season because, inside 1265, because of I was very public at the end of last season about it was a perfect, I thought it was the perfect time to turn the page, right? Because we'd had all the drama with Aaron.
That's why I wanted them to win the Super Bowl so bad.
Right.
Because then you could have turned the page and everyone would have been fine, but because they didn't.
And now they are in a position where they've brought the superstar back. And I said this the other night when the Saints game was going on. That Saints team looks exactly like they're supposed to. That's a team that kicked the can down the road as long as they could, trying desperately to get their superstar quarterback back to the Super Bowl. It had never happened, and now they're paying the price. They're in a world of hurt cap-wise. They're not a very good football team, and that's going to continue for a while. The problem for the Packers is they look like that now with the superstar QB. They bent over backwards to make sure they had him for at least 2 more years. And for whatever reason, and this is the great mystery to me, the personnel group clearly gave them a type of team, a run the ball, stay ahead of the sticks, be really efficient. We'll work it out as we let these young receivers kind of progress, and we're going to play good defense. They've been up and down on the good defense part, but for the most part, I think the defense has held up their end of the bargain. On offense, it's been a disaster because it seems like they have to play the way Aaron wants them to play. Other than
even when
things that are actually suited for the guys that they have on hand.
And this is where I look at Gutekunst, because he was there. He saw what happened with Ted. He's well aware. I mean, the fact that we're going through what we went through is ridiculous. You can't have a quarterback for 15 years and then have it end amicably. I get other teams can, but the Packers can't. So it's always hard. But so now I think that Gutekunst, they saw what they wanted to do. They wanted eventually to move on from Rodgers. This is a team that's been moving on a year, 2 years early on guys forever. And like the only one that I can be like, is like Micah Hyde, everyone else.
That's the most frustrating one. That's the most frustrating one.
But like TJ Lang and Josh Sitton and all these 100%. Other guys, and they whatever. So they leave Jordy, all these guys.
Yep.
But with Rodgers, Gutekunst, I'm not like in 1265, but I just, I said I think I'm world's greatest fan. This clearly was something that he was planning to do, was move on, go to Jordan Love. But then somewhere along the way, like, because Aaron played better, or because Goody just like stepped back on his, like Brian Gutekunst he did all the prep, man. He got the suit ready. He got he got the practice in. He made a will just in case, and he's ready to bungee jump. And then it's time to bungee jump, and he's like,
and he said, "No,
I don't want to wait this.
Now wait a second. No, I think that's a pretty apt metaphor, actually. And what's weird is that, like, it's funny you say that, because I asked him that on my podcast last month. The idea of, did Aaron Rodgers kind of throw a wrench in the work, so to speak, in the sense of, like, you took Jordan Love because it was very clear that Aaron was declining. He did not have a very good year those 2 years prior to Jordan's drafting. And at the time, I know he took a lot of heat for it, but it made sense given how Aaron was playing.
Yeah.
But now you fast forward and he's won 2 MVPs. It's like, I get the sense that probably wasn't expected. And that's where I think Brian saw, the level they were playing at. They've won 13 games 3 years in a row. And as you do, man, you're going to be judged by the championships you win or don't win, right? And that window was open these last couple of years, and they came real close. But I think he got a little kind of, maybe not desperate, but he's like, we're so close. Aaron wants to come back. He's a 4-time MVP. If we can just make it work on offense, add to the defense, we'll be in the mix. And obviously that hasn't happened.
I think that, like, Gutekunst is going to be, when he's 80 years old on his rocking chair, he's going to say, I wish I could have traded him. But I think in the moment,
right,
with there's so much going on, like,
yeah, there's a lot of levels.
And you did win the MVP twice, and you were in the NFC Championship game, and then you did get close again. It's like, even if the right decision, he just couldn't do it. And now, because of that, man,
it's hard. It's hard. And what sucks is that I could see a case for, okay, we're going to bring back Aaron and we're going to run the ball and we're going to help our aging quarterback. We're going to try and button it up a little bit more. I mean, the scheme is literally designed for that. We see it out in San Francisco all the time, just button it up, run the ball. Yeah, the quarterback will have to make a throw or two on third downs, extend drives, etc. But for the most part, we're going to try to take away the pressure from the aging superstar. Hell, the Broncos did it with Elway, at the last couple of years of his career. But for whatever reason, this team, and I suspect it's because of 12, just flat out refuses to operate that way. They have to 3-4 wide receivers, sometimes 5 wide, and he picks a side or he picks whatever combo he wants at the line of scrimmage, and away they go. And unfortunately, they don't have the personnel for that. And that's why it feels like there's a real disconnect between the personnel group and the coaching staff, because they handed them one team, but they're operating as though they've had the weapons and the personnel that they've had for the last 3 years rather than they have in 2022. It's just weird.
Well, when, McCarthy's coming in this weekend, as we mentioned, but I was at a game. It was a Thursday night in Seattle. It was like 4 years ago, but McCarthy was still the coach. And it was in the period where we thought Rodgers was trying to get him fired. It might've been that year.
Oh, I remember that. I was here in the studio and we were doing a watch party, and I remember there was an awful snowstorm in New York, but I remember that game very, very vividly. Yes.
There was
That's
like
when Mike decided to punt instead of go for it on a late fourth down.
But there was the play I remember is Rodgers. There was a play because we were in the end zone, and it was clear that Rodgers did not run the play that was called, and it might have been Tunyon or Devontae, but he just chucked it 50 yards down the field. And
that Devontae bomb was amazing. I remember that. It was incredible.
that was just him and Devontae. So that's him being like, "Screw this play, I'm going to throw to Devontae," and it's fine because it worked. Now you got Rodgers, and the thing with that's so frustrating with Rodgers is you watch the game, and then there's a lot of like, did he check out of that? Why is he trying to throw to his injured best friend who's a lineman when it's a 4th and goal? But then also you look back at some of these other plays, and he's not like he sees the guy. I mean, I don't have Aaron's eyes, so I can't see what he saw, but the video, he's looking right at him, and he's not throwing.
The guy's wide open.
Right. He is worse. And so if you're going to do this and be the MVP, that's one thing. But if you're going to do this and be debatably, a top 15 quarterback on the edge of that, then of course you're going to be 3-6.
Well, here's the crazy part is like, he didn't start to his usual standard at the beginning of the year. I think he would agree with that, right? And I think he's mentioned that throughout the season. The thing is a couple of weeks ago, you go to the Washington game, and that looked like the start of Aaron figuring it out. Like, there were still drops, there were still problems. He still had a few off throws, but he played well in that game. And then you get to Buffalo, and he played better. He was even better that week. And yeah, they ran it a lot, but as I'm saying, like, if you run the football, you're going to help your quarterback. You're going to help him in every way. The defense is just completely different when you're running the football effectively. And I thought coming off that Buffalo game, okay, here we go. We're going to go to Detroit. They have a really poor defense, historically bad defense. Aaron's finally getting into a rhythm. They're finally running the ball. And then they go to Detroit, and the first 8 plays are pass plays. They don't get the ball to Aaron Jones until like 9 plays in. I don't know what. It was like they're trolling us. Like, they just flat out refuse to use what works for this group. And once that started, I was like, oh no. And then, of course, as Aaron said, though, they did move the ball. They moved the ball all day, but their 4-time MVP quarterback cost them 24 points.
Well, they moved the ball against Buffalo, another game I was at, which I don't know if you ever drive. Do you ever drive back to Wisconsin?
I've driven back to Wisconsin. I've also driven to Buffalo from New York City. And let me tell you, that's a long-ass drive. That's a lot longer than I expected when I first moved to New York.
Yeah, so I drove the thing that I hate is, man, those turnpikes in Indiana and Ohio. They charge you like $30 to drive across the state. It's bullshit. All right. But yeah, so then the thing I took away from the Buffalo game was, yeah, they were moving the football. They were running the football. They're on 17. There's like no urgency. And then Von Miller after was like, I don't know. I mean, they kept running it. I mean, we're up 17. They just let them run all day. So they're running when they shouldn't be running. They're passing.
Who cares? As long as they're moving the football. What? I'd much rather them go 5 wide and go 3 and out. Like, that's the problem. Like, do what works. Yes, because that's the other thing. Like, Buffalo is playing a ton of too high shell. All year long, teams have been playing too high against the Packers, and they've refused to run it. This team played too high, and they finally ran it, and it worked. Again, there's your blueprint. I don't know why they insist on making it so difficult. Their 2 best players on offense are behind the quarterback, not the quarterback himself. They're the running backs. Use them. It drives me insane. Instead, how many more slants do we have to watch Alan Lazard drop? How many more times do we have to watch Josiah DeGuara screaming wide open down the middle and Aaron going, sorry, that's not my best friend, and he chucks the ball someplace else? Like, I am over it. I'm so over it. You talk about that rant you went on yesterday. That's where the offense it has broken me. It's absolutely broken me.
Talking with Aaron Nagler, CheeseheadTV. Carry the G beer. It's in stores all over Wisconsin. Go get it.
That's right.
Let me ask you about, because you're quote unquote boys with Matt Lafleur, right?
I don't know if he'd agree with that characterization, but we are friendly. Yes.
Yeah. Well, what's his deal? Why? Because Lafleur.
That's good.
If I'm Lafleur, at some point you need to take control of this team, right? At some point,
it's funny you said. I've heard that a lot this week.
Well, with Lafleur, it's like he is still coaching. He's coaching in his fourth. This is their fourth year together, so I've been calling it the senior year, right? And once you're in your senior year, you got a good lay of the land here. You're not a coy little freshman,
not a newbie. Yeah, right, exactly.
And in the first year, you do a little give and take, laugh with Rodgers, see what works, see what doesn't work, see what he likes, come up with something, have him run a play that was your idea, make him think it was his, build that relationship. But now it's like the senior year, and Lafleur seems like as scared as Rodgers as ever. Like, if the Packers have to make a decision, and financially they're screwed, but there's a lot more left on Lafleur that Lafleur can offer you than Rodgers. Rodgers is about done. Lafleur can coach here for another 10 years if he doesn't screw it up. So why is he acquiescing to Rodgers all the time?
That is the $1 million question, and hopefully he'll be coming on our show later this year, and I can ask him that point blank. I know I mentioned to him a couple weeks ago, and I'm never gonna look. It's not like I'm calling him up after every game and going, "What the hell is this call?" or like, "Why are you guys doing this?" or whatever.
You should
absolutely not doing that. But I did say to him, look, we were just texting, and he said, "We got to get a win." And I'm like, "Dude, it'll come. Just keep your head down, keep working." And I did say, though, I know he's juggling a lot, and for all the things I'm aware that he's juggling, I'm sure there are 20 others that I'm unaware of, that we as a public are unaware of. And that, that was my kind of olive branch to say, I realize you're caught in a rock and a hard place here because you've been given Aaron Rodgers, which is a gift. If you're a coach and you have a 4-time MVP, yes, absolutely, 1,000% sign me up. But the problem is, especially coming off of this offseason, which is why I was so adamant it was time to turn the page. Giving Rodgers that extension made him the franchise, not just the face of the franchise. He is the franchise. Everything hangs off of him. Think about it. Like, he goes on McAfee yesterday. What are we reading about this morning? It's all what Aaron Rodgers said about anything, everything. He speaks for the franchise. His words on Pat McAfee's YouTube show carry way more weight than Mark Murphy, the president and CEO, having, words with fans yesterday that normally probably would have made some headlines, but today I've seen like a blip. It's barely mentioned anywhere. He is the franchise.
I didn't even seen it. I don't even know what he said.
Exactly. He said he's not, they're not giving up on the season, Bart, even though they had a bleak start. But this is my point. Like, Aaron is the franchise at this point, and that is completely unhealthy, especially in a town like Green Bay. As you mentioned before, we saw it with Brett. How do you not learn that lesson? How do you not learn?
Well, they did it like
what blows my mind.
Right way, kind of. I mean, they did
tried,
it.
But to your point, they chickened out when it was time to pull make the jump.
And that's why, like, last year I was starting to say, I just want off the ride. I mean,
oh my God, dude. Yes.
For as much as, because here's
here's
my pushback on like the entitled town thing.
Right. Oh, you've been waiting years to say this to me, haven't you?
No. You're right. Packer fan. I mean,
we're a spoiled bunch.
The Bears had their first, which I love Justin Fields, and that sucks. But the Bears had their first good quarterback game in 30 years, and they're celebrating like when Rodgers came in against the Cowboys in 2007 because they know
the future is here.
Yeah.
Yep.
But if you're gonna give me a quarterback, and you're gonna give me tremendous play from the quarterback, but you're also gonna, in Favre's case, be a terrible human, and in Rodgers' case, just suck up all of my time in an like. I need more than one Super Bowl. If that's the trade-off,
right?
I need more than I'll do it for 2 Super Bowls.
That's the going price in Bart Winkler's land.
But I'm not gonna sit through all, like, every week it's something, and then just these last couple of off seasons with Rodgers. Did he golf with Elway? Did he renew his country club? Did he?
Oh my God!
Clean his house. Buy a home in Nashville.
2 summers ago, when he did like the Jeopardy thing, and then they dropped the bomb on draft day and blah blah blah. That was like the summer I could not escape Aaron Rodgers, and I'm like, it's the summer. I don't want to be talking about Aaron Rodgers. Like,
well, thank
it
God
was
the Bucks
all
won the
day,
title that
every
year
day.
because that was a nice distraction. But it's just
See,
it's too
I
much.
just don't watch basketball. So, but yes, it is. It's way too much. It's what that. But this is my point. He is the franchise. And
But how
that's
does he
really
not
unhealthy.
realize it's too much?
Because he got paid $50 million. Do you think he would? What if you paid me $50 million? You better believe I'd be swinging it around. Yes, I'm the man.
But doesn't like
did you listen to his interview with McAfee yesterday when they're talking
Yeah.
about the struggles and the problems, and he's legit asked, how do you pull out of this? The entire answer is me. It's like, well, I'll be in the huddle ready, expecting greatness if guys want to join me. My brother in Christ, you just threw 3 interceptions that lost you the game. Can we get a little bit of self-awareness? Just the tiniest bit. But no, of course not. He is the franchise. He can say or do whatever he wants, and everything that he expects and feels and, believes in himself, which is fine. I get it, manifesting all of that. But at some point, don't you have to look inward? Don't you have to take a hard look at yourself and admit,
I don't know if he can.
I'm holding the team back. Yeah, I don't know. But that's my point.
Everything's
Apparently
always
not.
somebody else's fault. He doesn't end his relationships. He doesn't end. It's always somebody else's fault.
I mean, it's just a lot, like you said, week to week. And I talked about this on Transplants last week. It's like every word gets kind of cut up and dissected and blown up because of the media landscape that we find ourselves in. It's way too much. It's way too much.
So what I wonder is if he's saying like, all right, you know where I'll be. I would like to know a percentage. If you could like survivor poll the team and have them write on a piece of paper.
Right.
Who do you want to start this week? I think Jordan Love wins.
Oh, I don't think so. I
don't think Rodgers has that locker room.
I think there'd be a handful of people saying, yeah, put Jordan in. I still think
like some of the guys, like not everybody's as tight with Rodgers as Randall Cobb.
100%. A lot of the younger guys would probably say, like, yeah,
but if
Jordan
they're like,
go, but
hey, I thought we were getting Aaron Rodgers, and on 4th down, he's throwing to his lineman who's had 17 surgeries and 17 weeks on his knee. Right. We've never run that play before. What are we doing? Jordan's a nice guy. It's funny. He throws well in practice.
They ran that play in training camp, Matt's first summer in town, and I've been waiting for them to pull it out, and then they finally do, and it's fucking that. Like, I can't. Like, this is a must-win game. Your season hangs in the balance. You're on the goal line. It's 4th down, and you go with that play? Are you serious? It blows my mind. It blows my mind.
So then we've got the Cowboys coming up this week. And it is Mike McCarthy. And I've always thought that this game was going to go one of two ways. Either somehow, some way, Rodgers throws 5 touchdowns.
Right.
But I don't know that he's got the personnel to even attempt to do that.
I think he does, but if they play a certain way. But if they
spread
it out against this team,
no way. Like if Rodgers all of a sudden if Rodgers all of a sudden is his best game of the season, isn't that more like I'd be pissed about that, I think.
No, you wouldn't. You'd be having a great time.
For McCarthy, you could have done that against
the Green Bay Packers score 5 touchdowns against the Dallas Cowboys. You're telling me you're going to be mad? Come on.
Well, I'll be mad because if Rodgers is capable of doing it, why didn't you do it the other weeks?
I don't care. Do it.
Now this is such a hypothetical because I think McCarthy's going to tee off on us in a very bad way.
I do too. I think it's going to be not ugly. I think the Packers will be in it for a while. But they're just a better team across the board, and they're playing much better. Now, who knows? Maybe come off the bye. Maybe they're a little rusty. Who knows? Maybe the Packers catch a break there. But overall, I mean, that game against the Bears before they went to the bye, they were clicking on all cylinders. They are pretty damn impressive. Mike's done a really good job down there. And look, I was a Mike fan when he was in town. I'm really happy to see him doing well. And I don't know if you saw that, part of his press conference where he got kind of choked up talking about Green Bay and, his wife's from there and his kids were born there. And I get it, man. I get being emotional about that. And that's one of the things I always loved about Mike. He really appreciated Green Bay, and the fact that, being the head coach of that team in that town meant a lot to him. And like I said, I always appreciated that. I'm really glad. I'm hoping he gets a decent reception at Lambeau. I know we're going to boo the Cowboys. Like, the Cowboys are one thing, but I hope Mike gets some kind of moment at Lambeau on Sunday.
Well, I think he will. I mean, it's different because there's been more time now. And for McCarthy, if this game was last year, when Rodgers was playing better and the Cowboys were, what are they? But McCarthy seems like he's in a pretty good spot right now, and he knows he's got a pretty good team. And if you're ever going to come back to Lambeau, to come back here when the Packers are reeling
or licking their wounds and really just trying to stay afloat, and you're coming in like the big brother who's going to just give you a beat down. Yeah, that's a pretty good spot to be in.
Oh, and I do believe that Rodgers and McCarthy are like, they respect each other, love each other.
Right. It's so
they
funny
both want to kick the shit out of each other this weekend.
Well, and that's the thing. It's so funny to read their quotes, and because I asked Mike on the Green Bay radio media call, I said, when was the last time you talked to Aaron, and would beating an Aaron Rodgers-led team give you a little bit more satisfaction? And he gave the exact answer you'd expect. He's like, no, I've a lot of respect for Aaron. Like, and he did say, and I think Aaron kind of backed this up on McAfee. He's talked to Mike a few times recently, and they've been staying in touch, and Aaron saying he's going to give him a big hug and all this stuff. And I'm like, man, it's great. I'm really happy they're at that place. But that is not where they were when Mike walked out the door. No. Like, at least it sure didn't feel like it sitting on the outside. But I'm glad they're in a good spot now. I'm really glad because, look, Aaron Rodgers, 4-time MVP, superstar, first ballot Hall of Famer, that doesn't happen without Mike. And people try to poo-poo that. People try to dismiss it, but it's absolutely true. And I loved Aaron talking about Mike's quarterback school in Matt Schneidman's interview on The Athletic yesterday, or was it yesterday, this morning? But talking about the time they spent every spring breaking down the game and what it meant to him and what it meant to his education as a player. I mean, that's Mike McCarthy did that, And I think people dismiss that. And without Mike in that situation and that staff and the way he brought Aaron along, we don't get Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers wasn't Aaron Rodgers when he was drafted. Aaron Rodgers became the Aaron Rodgers we knew. Yeah,
he threw like he was climbing a ladder or something.
Right. Mike helped mold him into the amazing player he became. And I think Aaron probably now recognizes that. And I'm glad. I'm very glad.
All right, one more. When do we see Jordan Love start?
Ooh, baby. I'll tell you what. I saw Leroy Butler say that if they lose these next 3 games, which there's a decent chance that happens, that they should play Love.
Well, Rodgers won't let it happen.
That's my point. Like, I would suspect when they're mathematically eliminated. When they're eliminated, they'll use the thumb as the reason for him to go on IR, and then Jordan will get the starts. Now, when that is, I have no idea. I mean, it could be sooner rather than later, no doubt about it. But we've seen them do that before. They did that a couple years ago with the shoulder. They came back and they had a chance to get in the playoffs. They lost down in Carolina, and then they shut him down. I wouldn't be surprised if they went that route at all. But as long as there's a chance for them to make the playoffs, even if it's a 1,000,000 to 1 chance, he'll play. You paid him $50 million. He's going to play.
Well, are we going to talk about the 2020s like the 70s and 80s?
Hell no. No. No, sir. No, sir. Blip in the radar this year. That's all it is. Retool, reload, get back out there. It's going to be a lot of fun. It may take another year of pain, but they'll get it turned around. I have no doubt.
All right. Aaron Nagler, CheeseheadTV. Carry the G, get the beer. I do appreciate you coming on. It's good to talk to you.
Great to talk to you, Bart. Thanks so much for having me, man.